You're on LinkedIn. Oh, where do I go for? No. Streaming, right? So where is the link? Oh, thank God. Okay, so I'm live on LinkedIn. I'm live on YouTube. No, I'm not live on YouTube yet. What's wrong with YouTube, buddy? Stop recording, yes. Live. The video is unavailable. What do you mean the video is unavailable? It should be available. Look, second. So I am live on LinkedIn. I'm live on YouTube, I guess. Yes, perfecto. Okay. So I'm going to share these links with people. WhatsApp. It's 8:05. I'm late. No. Sad. And LinkedIn goes here. It goes here. It goes here. Got it. 25th episode. Oh, I'm late today. Got it. Now I'm ready. Ready for war. Anyway. And here we go again, says Mr. Rajkumar. I hope you can hear me properly, Mr. Kumar. I'm sorry I got late today, but it was just I had to take a call very early in the morning, but yeah, ready. So I'm just waiting for somebody to join on LinkedIn and tell me if I'm audible, and then we'll be then we'll be good to go. Let me check LinkedIn myself. I hope you can hear me properly, Mr. Kumar. Yeah, so I can hear myself properly. I hope you can hear me. I think I'm audible on YouTube, and I'm fine on LinkedIn as well, I hope. So folks on LinkedIn, if you can hear me, you could tell me if I'm audible, and then we'll be happy. We'll be happy. Yeah? Okay. So it's already 8:07. We cannot afford to wait any longer. Yes, I can hear you. Yes, you're audible on YouTube, says Mr. Pulkit Mittal. Thank you, Mr. Mittal. Mr. Kumar says, yes, I can hear you. Perfect. So we will begin. All right. Hello, everybody. Sorry, let's do it again. Bum, 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 bum. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Thinker's Frequency. We're having such a good time. This is the peak of human civilization. We are working so hard, doing such good work for ourselves, our parents, our kids, Our siblings, our husbands, our wives, everybody. Not other people's husbands and wives, I hope. And just when we thought things couldn't get any better, like they couldn't possibly get any better, well, they just did. Call it divine intervention, folks, but things just got a whole lot better. Now we have Thinker's Frequency, our daily dose of insights and analysis which don't lead to paralysis right before we start our day. So let's continue with our journey of reading between the lines things that are especially interesting and important in the world of finance and business. Let's go! Oh, but before we go, you gotta follow tradition, right? You know the tradition? You all know the tradition. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. The tradition of the simultaneous sip. We're all having to sip something together. We're all gonna sip something together. And all you need for the simultaneous sip is a cup, a mug, a glass, a tank, a chalice or stein, a canteen jug or flask, or a vessel of any kind. Poured with your favorite liquid. Today I'm having coffee. Cold. And here we go. Oh my god. Oh my god. Beautiful. Beautiful. Extraordinary. I'll do it again. Ah, wonderful. Highlight of the day, dopamine hit of dopamine hits. You know what the simultaneous sip says, right? You remember it? Let me hear you. Oh yes, I heard you. It says that you're not alone. It says that we're in this together, which is such a beautiful thing to say. Let's begin. Urban Company has swung to a 240 crore profit in FY25. Urban Company has had its operational revenue at almost 1200 crores, 1144 crores, and it's profitable and it's gonna go public. Now, of all the startups in India, if all the startups that have come out from India, one can easily say that Urban Company is at the creme de la creme. It's like the best startup that the Indian startup ecosystem has churned out. Urban Company, Urban Clap earlier. So we used to work with Urban Clap. Testament did a lot of work for Urban Clap. They were our clients. And those people are just extraordinary. What they've been able to accomplish, what they've been able to do is nothing short of miraculous. So I'll tell you how Urban Company began. When Urban Company began as Urban Clap, there were a lot of players in this domain, right? There was Housejoy, the biggest competitor. It was funded by Amazon. And then there was a lot of players, small players, Handy Homes that was acquired. So it was a huge market of small players, Find Yahan, and so on and so forth. But the thing that these players do is so hard. It's so operational intensive. It's such a OPEX heavy business. It's an operational nightmare. The whole Urban Company play. It's a constant firefight. It's just extraordinarily hard to do that. And so now you see, for a long time, there was literally no competitor of Urban Clap. So Urban Clap and Housejoy were neck to neck competitors. But then Housejoy imploded because of various reasons. The founders had some kind of sexual, assault allegations, or not, if not assault, some kind of, allegation in that regard, some sexual harassment kind of an allegation. And then they had to go because the management shifted, and then it was such a fire truck that it couldn't survive. So Housejoy is now in the constructions business, which was essentially the biggest competitor of Urban Company. It doesn't even exist, right? And then nobody existed, and it's not because nobody really thought of this concept or something like that. It's just because people saw that this business is so hard that let's just not do it. It doesn't make so much money. And it's so operationally hard that you might not be able to pull it off, even if everything goes right. But somehow, Urban Company has pulled off the impossible, for a long period of time. So they've been around since 2014-15. So it's almost 10 years now. And since 10 years they've been doing this day in and day out. And I've talked to a lot of employees of Urban Clap. It's not an easy job for any of them. There's a lot of firefighting which goes. The company constantly stays in the firefight mode, and it works so hard, and it tries to just keep the operations tight. And in the process they've actually done a lot of social good as well. So these people have brought in the concept of dignity of labor. They've organized a fragmented space, skilled them up, positioned them up, have given them a better pricing point. Yes, there are issues, of course, when you're dealing with people, because Indian populace in general is very hard to deal with. People are extremely unpredictable. Just imagine if you're calling somebody, they don't show up most of the time, right? But urban companies somehow made it happen that they organize such a difficult skill market, right? And the 240 crore profit at a 1144 crore uh, revenue, that basically means a net margin of almost 20%, 25% net margin. So net profit after tax, everything, I guess, is 240 crores. Yeah, and Gurgaon based net profit of 240 crore against 93 crores loss. And turnaround came. Oh, okay, okay. So you've got to read it a little more carefully. The turnaround came on the back of a 200 crore deferred tax credit. Deferred tax credit was 200 crores. So got to take it out. So it's looking at a 20 crore profit at a 1200 crore play. So 20 crore is how much of it? It's basically 2%. Well, the business is hard, as I told you. Not a lot of money, extremely hard operationally. So if you look at it, 20 crores, 28 crores, 28 crores on 1200 crores is 2%, right? Yeah, yeah, it's 2%. So not really green, but the company has like achieved something almost impossible. So you've got to give them credit, man. These people have been very, very nice. And the way they've played their company, I mean the way they've built their company, ESOPs, and a lot of ESOPs exit, events where they've actually cashed their employees out. They've bought back a lot of ESOPs, so people have actually made money because of the company. All in all, extremely ethical people, extremely nice, very, very, uh, you know, they've done their business like to the best anybody could have done. So, and it speaks. The concept is like, if you remember, Flipkart wanted to enter the AC repair biz, and but nothing happened. A lot of people have tried. So beauty space is seeing a lot of people, yes madam, and so on and so forth. So as a business, Urban Clap will continue to be extremely hard, right? As a business, it'll continue to be not that green, not that uh, profitable. Let's say the margins will be thin, the ops will be extremely hard. But you've got to look at the company as a whole. And if you're judging a company like Urban Clap or Urban Company, you've got to see that what they've done is extremely hard and they've been able to accomplish it. So to make up for the inherent nature of the business, which is very ops heavy and very difficult to earn money through, they've even began this direct to consumer equipment business, right? Native, where they're selling some machines. uh, yeah, so core services, of course, and native brand. So scaling up the product led solutions under native brand. I don't know what native makes primarily. I think it's some coffee machines or something. Urban Clap, Urban Company, native products. So native RO purifiers. Yes, yes. Okay. So RO purifiers is a great market. Uh, it's currently been pretty much in control of the guys at Eureka Forbes uh, and the new players, the Kent Arrow guys, right? So that's a good market, and probably that will lead to some offshoot for the companies, for the company to make actually predictable, less ops heavy money. But the business will continue to be hard, very hard, not that green. However, you've got to give them a lot of credit for doing great work. You've got to give them. That's uh, all props to them. Hats off. Anyway, speaker variable TV companies face China rare earth jam. So viewers of Thinkers Frequency would remember that we've been talking about how rare earth minerals and the blockade of their supplies from China has led to so many problems, right, for people. It's been such a hard game for the EV industry, the automotive industry. Turns out, automotive industry is not the only place where rare earth magnets are used. Of course, it's no surprise. Speaker variables TV companies are also now beginning to face the heat, right? So this shouldn't have been a surprise to anybody, that the spillover of this rare earth magnet is now going to hurt the speaker variable and TV market. So it's basically looking at uh, these magnets account for 5 to 7% of bill of materials depending on product category, and electronic manufacturers in India import nearly 100% of them from China. So 100% of them from China. 5 to 7% is the cost of goods which they require to make these products, these electronics guys. 100% of them comes from China. China blocks this, these people get screwed. So it shouldn't be any surprise, because loudspeakers, in case of loudspeakers, these magnets make up for 50% of the production costs. So for TVs, and 5 to 7% for speakers, 50%, which is no surprise. And now it's gonna take a bite. So these magnets have already grown in price 15% up due to the supply tightening, and it's gonna be a difficult play, till the time China essentially gives up the control. I mean, it just agrees to share these rare earth magnets. Now, my question to you is, all of this should be leading to actual exit from China, right? People should be looking at war footing, ways to mitigate such a concentrated risk. But do you think Indian companies or anybody will actually, once dust settles over this tariff war, would they actually make something beyond China? Would they actually look at replacing China seriously? Viewers of Thinkers Frequency, what do you think? I think you know the answer, right? No, they won't. They won't be looking at anything seriously. They don't care. You know why they won't be looking at anything seriously? In all likelihood, because it's all short term, right? People are driven by short term thinking. The executives of these companies, they want to run business as usual. They don't want to take outsized bets which are strategic in nature or long term in nature. Just think about it. When COVID happened, it came out of China, everything happened. Like millions of people died. But what happened? Did anybody actually? There was no retribution for China. There was just China just went scot free and was literally responsible for that mess. Yet, after the dust settled, it was business as usual, right? And that's what we are gonna see most likely, in all likelihood, with the whole rare earth magnet scene as well. Because at the end of the day, people just want to do the bare minimum to actually, you know, survive and thrive. So, looking at deep tech, uh, which is something long term, VC spot big funding momentum on government geopolitical push. So, VCs are apparently looking at some deep tech. Uh, Java Capital has raised 50 crores. Invest has 200 crores. Navam Capital 250 crores, and so on and so forth. But can't be bullish on anything as far as these VCs are concerned, right? Very, very difficult to be. So a lot of the deep tech investments which happen, uh, they happen in a very B2B environment. You know why? because with B2B, they see a predictability of business outcomes. So if you got a government contract, you'll be essentially looking at, okay, you got a government contract, or you have. So the biggest deep tech manufacturing investment in India of the VC community, you know which one is it? It's a company called ZWorks. And ZWorks is essentially a contract manufacturer. So it's not an IP creator. IP creator is like intellectual property creator, where some companies actually working on new technologies or bringing new products to the market. ZWork essentially is a contract manufacturer, you know, least risk, least going out of the way, and so that's a problem which continues to stay and probably will, unless you have folks like urban company guys who are willing to go out of the way to do great things. As fintech lenders chase secured credit options, VCs put up their bets. So you guys must remember, Thinkers Frequency audience would especially know that with the VC push in the NBFC play, the fintech play, a lot of unsecured lending happened. A lot of BNPL action also happened, right? And that didn't go anywhere. Obviously, that didn't go anywhere. And that led to a lot of problems because recovery of those loans became difficult, and then it basically led to just bad outcomes, right? But now what's happening is secured lending is essentially looking at VC investments. Now, secured lending is a very predictable, it's not a technology, it's not a disruption play, it's just lending, secured lending, right? But with the market for unsecured lending, or let's say innovative lending or whatever, P2P, and has been brought down by the RBI because of the inherent problems in the business. VCs are placing up bets as far as this traditional sector is concerned. Easy home finance, basic home loan, and so on and so forth. These people are raising a lot of money. Speaking of raising a lot of money and people who've raised a lot of money, Baiju's resolution professional has filed a lawsuit claiming the directors owe compensation to company under IBC laws. So he said the directors of Baiju, Mr. Riju Ravindran, his brother, Divya Gokul his wife, they made transactions, heavy transactions, one transaction of over $500 million and one transaction of over 130 crores out of the company, which actually led to the company's detriment. So these people are claiming that, they owe the company money. Now, Baiju's is saying that the resolution professional isn't the right person, and he's not the right person to represent the committee of creditors because 50% of creditors have opposed his, control. So it's a slinging match, essentially, mud slinging happening with Baiju's, which shouldn't be any surprise. Skoda Volkswagen is essentially looking at a $1 billion reboot. €1 billion reboot of its business in India. So Volkswagen is essentially looking at investing like 10,000 crores, but this investment is going to start from 2018. That's what the press says, and they're basically looking at no small vehicles. So they want SUVs, 7-seaters, 5-seaters, MPVs and EVs and so on and so forth. Speaking of large vehicle and no small vehicles, did you know that Alto, which used to be such a huge car, right? I mean, not in terms of size, but in terms of its presence. There used to be a lot of Altos selling in the market, in the Indian automotive market. But what has happened right now is that Alto sold just 5,000 cars in a month. So India sold like 3.5 lakh cars last month, and Alto sold just 5,000, which is very, very coincident with what or let's say co-linear with what Mr. R.C. Bhargav has been saying, the legend from the Indian automotive industry. He's been saying that uh, in order to grow Indian industry, Indian automotive play, the entry cars need to sell, and entry cars are not selling. And Alto, which is the de facto entry car, Alto, Wagoner, and so on. Alto has like literally gone out of the flavor, which is strange. 5,000 sales of a car like Alto, unbelievable, right? Huge. Nissan is aiming to steer a turnaround in India. So Skoda, Volkswagen trying to turn around, Nissan trying to turn around in India. Nissan and Honda were trying to merge globally, but that didn't happen. And Nissan is going through a very tough time. So Nissan India has been taken over by Renault, which is the French company. And now the brand is gonna look at some sort of brand revival. Now the quick question to ask is, why are all these foreign automotive companies so serious about India? Can you think about it a little? Why do you think is it because India is a big market? Sure, India is a big market. India sold 3.5 lakhs cars last month, and about 40 lakh cars in the last year. Sure, India is a proper market, but the bigger problem is the Chinese market. The Chinese market is going dead for these guys, essentially. BYD is killing it. Chinese cars are entering and actually winning the car play, the EV ecosystem. BYD has eclipsed Tesla. So these major car companies. So if you look at Japan, India is one of the few growing markets. You're right, Mr. Patil, but the real reason, as I said, was the growth of China and Chinese car companies. And India is the last bastion for these car companies to survive. Because China has entered Europe, and the way Chinese car companies are moving forward, it's pretty scary and China is a very big market, very, very big market for cars globally. So if I look at, how many cars India sold last year, right? 40 lakhs. Okay. Now, how many cars did China sold last year? Cars sold in China FY25. Let's look at that number. And it's 30 million. That is FY25 continued growth, total vehicle sales forecast to 32 million. 32 million is 3 crore cars. Right? So you can understand. Moving forward, we've been discussing how the ESOPs, SEBI has laid some interesting moves. So it has allowed ESOPs holding by promoters, essentially. So earlier, what used to happen was, when a company used to be listed, the founders were listed at promoters, and promoters were not allowed ESOPs. So before listing, they had to liquidate their ESOPs and then go forward. Why? Because when promoters with significant holdings have the opportunity of getting awarded more shares in the form of ESOPs, it dilutes the shareholding of the retail investors, which is what SEBI wanted to protect. Now that's a problem, because new age companies don't work like the old promoter driven institutions, right? The shareholding is small, the incentives are different, it's a different play. Considering that different play, SEBI has essentially led to this change, which is going to be nice. And then there's voluntary delisting of public sector banks, small banks, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So that's pretty interesting. That's gonna lead to easier IPO for companies. Looking at something which is not easy is what's going on with China. Iran and Israel. So we talked about Strait of Hormuz. Okay, Strait of Hormuz is essentially the the narrow passage of sea, which if blocked would block a lot of supplies of crude and natural gas for India and the world. So it's gonna lead to a serious trouble as far as the global trade movement is considered. Viewers of Thinkers Frequency would know that we discussed how Suez Canal got just randomly blocked because a ship couldn't turn, and it led to hundreds of $billions of trade losses, right? At least the movement got delayed and so on and so forth. So Iran and Israel's conflict is not slowing down as fast as imagined, because Iran has said that we are not going to be threatened, and whatever US does, if US enters the war, it will lead to irreparable consequences. Now the question is, what irreparable consequences? A lot of what's happening between Iran and Israel is basically marketing talk. They're talking in the language of sequels. They're talking in sequels. Israel says that we're going to attack in the coming days, the likes of which the pager attack will look like child's play. So you remember where members of Hezbollah, all of their 4,000 pagers, blasted at once, killing essentially the entire, or hurting the entire fleet of Hezbollah operators. They say we have an operation coming which will make that look like child's play. And Iran said we are gonna have an attack on Israel, the kind of which nobody has ever seen before. So all of these people are essentially talking about the war and the anticipation of it in terms of movie sequels, like Mission Impossible. Gotta trust me one last time. That's how these people are talking. But what's actually happening is that Iran's missile supply has come down. So in the first day of attack, 600 missiles were launched, and some number like that. And in the last attack, only 30 missiles were launched. And that was confusing people, because are they running out of missiles? Are they running out of supplies to actually go with the war? But if that is so, how is Khamenei essentially looking at not negotiating and saying that we won't negotiate? So this conflict is actually making people a little nervous about what's going to happen, and also making them laugh at the same time, because they know that Iran has very limited options remaining. So that's pretty interesting. Speaking of which, China has asked to be the mediator. China has said that we could mediate between Iran and Israel because we are a neutral party. US is involved. Russia has also said that we'd like to mediate between Iran and China because we are related to, Iran. We do a lot of business with Iran. To which Trump said that no, you solve your war first. And Russia said, okay, so you solve your war first. And this is like a usual, very, very funny kind of a conversation going on. Speaking of funny conversations, Fed has refused to reduce rates. US Fed, people were hoping that US Fed would reduce rates, and that reduction of rates would lead to some spur of economic activity, new activity. That was what Donald Trump was looking at, Team Trump. But Chief of Fed, Powell, has refused to reduce rates. And Donald Trump has called him stupid. Why? Because he said that inflation is in control. We've been able to control inflation. And the natural consequence of it should have been putting pedal to the metal for the growth, because that could have been interesting and important. And the Fed didn't do that. This Powell guy didn't do that. So he's stupid, he said. But Powell has his reasons, and he says it's non-political. He says, the job numbers and the inflation numbers and a lot of numbers, not just inflation, but they are saying that we cannot yet begin with the rate cuts. What do you say about that, man? It's the, there's so much of funny conversations happening at a global level that you realize, like, it's just how people talk, right? It's just how any mid-level person in the street would talk. Like there was a talk about PM Modi having a conversation with Donald Trump, and where he said that India has never accepted and not accepting and neither will accept any mediation. This is a bilateral issue when talking in reference to Operation Sindoor. To which Modi's Team Trump said that Modi is a great man. However, I love Pakistan and I did mediate. So it's just like, it's absolutely hilarious. UK inflation is holding at 3.4%, highest in a year. But UK is positive, it's making a lot of investments to counter the inflation narrative. UK's economy, by the way, is in doldrums, has been in doldrums, but slightly there are some shoots of recovery. Let's see how that play goes out. Meta offered 100 million to poach OpenAI stars, says Sam Altman. So I watched this interview where he said it's crazy because Meta is essentially trying to give $100 million of signing bonus, not compensation, signing bonus to our employees, and then even more than that as compensation to try and poach them. And that's weird because you can't buy people with money, he says, and that won't lead to outcomes because the culture needs to be in line. Do you believe that? Do you believe that money wouldn't talk? He said mission is important. You know. Do you believe that Meta would not be able to poach employees if it offered ridiculous compensation to people with AI in AI? What do you think about that? It's interesting, right? How this war of, just yesterday we were talking about how Meta was trying to position itself as a pioneer in the AI game, even though it didn't have anything to show for it. Turns out it's actually moving forward and it's desperate to show something. And $15 billion in scale, 100 million compensation for OpenAI people, those are some serious moves. And that also shows desperation. That means literally Meta has very little time to catch on as far as this whole AI play is considered. Vodafone India is coming forward with its own satellite play. It is tied up with Satcom player in US. It's basically third. So Indian satellite play, it's gonna see Starlink being distributed by Airtel and also by Jio. At the same time, Airtel has its own company in the Satcom space, which is called OneWeb, Eutelstat OneWeb. That's a Bharti and Eutelstat joint venture. Then there's Amazon Kuiper. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correct. There's Amazon Kuiper. And then there's Jio's another unit, which is their own, I'm forgetting the name. And now Vodafone is also entering with its Satcom play. So a lot of players in Satcom, right? And just yesterday or a couple of days ago, we discussed how Satcom space was so threatening to the existence of the usual telecom. But Try said, don't worry. Don't worry, because it's not going to lead to losses for you. The tariff for these players would be higher. Their cost of business would be higher. You will be safe. But the companies say, no, we'll not be safe. If these people sell at such a price, we're going to die. And that is an ongoing conversation between the telecom players who are almost always crying. Viewers of Thinkers Frequency would remember that we talked about why they keep crying, right? You remember why these people keep crying, the telecom operators? Well, indigenous 5th gen fighter plan gains speed. So viewers of Thinkers Frequency would know this is a developing story. India wants to develop its own 5th generation plane. fifth generation plane with better stealth abilities and so on and so forth. So currently we have in the fifth generation plane, there's F-35, then there's Chinese plane JF-17, I guess, and then there is Sukhoi 30 MKI. No, Sukhoi 30 MKI is fourth generation, but Sukhoi 37, I guess, is fifth gen, right? So India wants its own fifth gen, and it has allocated some 15,000 crores for the pilot, and it has allowed private companies and public companies like HAL, private companies like Adani Defense, Larsen and Toubro, Reliance Defense, Tata. They've allowed them to actually bid either alone or together. So I expect, and then after the 15,000 crores which is being set aside for the pilot, they'll spend like 2 lakh crores on the project. That's what they say. What do you think about this plan? I am very bullish on defense as a sector, not stocks, but defense as a sector in India. I think it has such immense potential for nation building. Like if we look at producing such high value and high intelligence and high on engineering products, the cascading effects of these will actually improve us by a lot, and that's not a joke. That's amazing. Speaking of what's amazing, or I shouldn't say it, right, because it could be considered short and fruity. However, top 3 Maoist leaders have been killed in Andhra Pradesh. So left-wing terrorism is actually over, almost at the cusp of going down. If not SIP, some by the dip. Some people are buying ETFs, electronic traded funds, right? ETFs to play volatility, because they have some lesser fee, and you can trade ETFs a little faster than you can go with SIPs, and it basically helps them deal and cash on the volatility. So when it comes to ETFs, there are no exit loads, expense ratio is low. Expense ratio is the fee I was talking about, and you can buy or sell during market. So I've never traded in ETFs as of now, but yeah, that's probably gaining a lot of steam, which is nice, I guess. Dassault and Reliance revive Falcon jet manufacturing tie-up. So French company Dassault makes Rafale the plane, if you're not aware. Rafale the plane, and Dassault also makes softwares where a lot of mechanical engineering drawing happens. It's called CATIA and ANSYS. So Dassault as essentially makes all these things. So it's reviving its tie-up with Reliance, and we're looking at rolling out jets by 2028, which is awesome, which is great, which is not bad at all. Tilak Nagar is planning a $500 million fundraise. Viewers of Thinkers Frequency know about Tilak Nagar Industries, right? Tell me about Tilak Nagar Industries, folks. What do you know about Tilak Nagar Industries? Tilak Nagar Industries. I told you about it. Oh, I heard you. Tilak Nagar Industries are the players who are going to buy the Imperial Blue whiskey from Pernod Ricard. If you remember, Men Will Be Men. That particular whiskey brand, Imperial Blue, Pernod Ricard is offloading it. It's selling the whiskey. And who's buying it? Tilak Nagar Industries is buying it. So it's planning a $500 million raise, 300 million of which will be debt, or 400 million of which will be debt, and 100 million of which will essentially be equity. So Tilak Nagar will... Now you remember why these people were buying, because now what these people are thinking, the global players are looking at premium brands, because they see a lot of scope in premiumization of the liquor which is sold in India. 60% of the liquor which sells in India is not premium, right? So they see that there's a lot of scope for premiumization. Pernod Ricard see. So it's offloading one of the greatest brands, by the way, of alcohol, Imperial Blue, because this particular campaign made it legendary, right? Men Will Be Men campaign, designed by Ogilvy and Mather. It's such great work, it's almost unbelievable. However, they must see some merit in selling it off. So let's see what happens there. Uh, with no upgradation plan, several small drug companies may shut ops. So if you remember, there's been a lot of controversy as far as Indian pharma manufacturing is considered lately. So if you remember, a lot of kids in Gambia and in some sub-Saharan African countries died because of problems with the manufacturing in cough syrups made in India. So Indian made cough syrups, some of them reached these sub-Saharan African countries, and a lot of kids died, you know. Following which, the government stepped up its audit and its control and its grip on these manufacturers. So they asked them to update themselves, upgrade themselves, and so on and so forth. But a lot of these small companies say that we don't have the wherewithal, the financial wherewithal, to be able to actually implement such upgradation or updation, right? We don't have that. We can't do that. So what they are looking at, what they're saying, is that only 1,700 of the 5,000 of such units can actually afford 6,000 units, have submitted upgradation plans, and a lot of people will go. So thousands of pharmaceutical companies in the MSME space face the grim prospect of closure, having passed the May deadline for submitting plans for upgrading their facilities. Only 700 companies have sent this report, and they're saying that this will lead to a lot of job losses, employment losses, closures, and so on and so forth, which is obvious. So government to begin audits, take action, in case of people who have not done it. Industry states courts, units with turnover under 250 crores had got deadline extension. So considering how hard it could be, units under 250 crores have been given a deadline extension, but still they say we won't be able to upgrade it, right? Because that costs a lot of money. So the government, they might lose their license and stuff, and they might close. How many of you think it's a good idea for the government to actually implement these force upgradation on these players? I think it's actually a very good idea, right? Even though it looks like it's gonna harm companies, but when it comes to drug manufacturing, you can't take it easy, right? You can't take it easy. I guess so. I hope so. So that happens. Anyway, Reliance Consumer, the RCPL group, Mukesh Ambani, is actually looking at investing 8,000 crores, almost $1 billion, into the soft drinks business. It says the soft drink business is a 67,000 crore business, and right now we are making like 1,000 crores in revenue. So they have like Campa and stuff. Reliance has built a Campa brand. It's revived a Campa brand. So they say that we are going to spend 8,000 crores to grow Campa and their other soft drinks business to new heights. So let's see how that plans out. That's gonna be interesting. I don't know why a company like Reliance has to go to the soft drinks business. I mean, they could be doing anything, right? They could be doing anything, but they're actually looking at investing a lot of capex into soft drinks, and they're very clear on their heart. Like they don't pretend to go healthy or anything. It's just sweetened carbonated drink. We are happy. We want this market. Screw the health focus market, right? Which says something. So tractor sales in India are growing. But at the same time, the AC market and the energy requirement is coming down. So energy requirements are very cyclical in nature, right? You see energy requirements going up when there's a lot of heat. But in this case, in this year, monsoon came early, and it became mild. The summer was much milder. Now with milder summer, the bad thing which happened was that ACs didn't sell as much, and gas distribution, the city gas distributors saw the power decline. You know, uh, Power consumption decline. So, but at the same time, since monsoons have shown they've been nice, tractor sales are looking at revival. So you see how just the natural factors affect industries. It's so amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Moving forward, we are basically looking at Taliban has slapped a ban on smartphones. So it says Taliban, the Afghani government right now, has banned smartphones and issued that there are concerns over focus and Islamic law. Now I don't know much about Islamic law, but definitely for once in my life, I find myself agreeing with Taliban. It says this decision has been made to ensure educational discipline and focus. The destruction of the future generation is happening in the hands of smartphones. So the last place I thought that I'd agree with as far as technology trend is considered and social trend is considered was Taliban. But I agree. So I don't know much about the Sharia perspective, which these guys are claiming, or anything else. But focus, smartphone is a big problem for the focus play, and that's the reason why I came up with Seneca, and I agree. I agree with this. As I said, natural gas demand has dropped 10% as monsoon has arrived early. So natural gas demand going down is bad news for city gas distributors, which already said that it's a difficult play. So if you remember, viewers of Thinkers Frequency would know that city gas distributors have been very fine with the CNG pump station business, right? Because that makes money for them, they said. But what doesn't make a lot of money is distributing home gas, because that's a very capex heavy business. That leads to a lot of investments in laying the pipes, and then things like these actually make it very difficult to work out. So that's something. Banned cotton seeds are carving out a 600 crore parallel market. So very interestingly, there is HTBT, herbicide tolerant genetically modified seed. So the problem with farmers is that they don't want there's a shortage of labor, right? And with shortage of labor, they want easy deployment of pesticides and weed treatment. Now, for weed treatment, as far as cotton is considered, there's something called HTBT, which is herbicide tolerant genetically modified cotton seed, and it's been banned for the government because it causes cancer, and it's bad for the environment and so on and so forth. So this particular seed has been selling in the parallel market, and in the parallel market it has grown to the 15% mark of India's total cotton seed market. So India has a 3,600 crore cotton seed market, out of which these people have taken 15%, 600 crores. Now farmers say that we can't do it. They are doing it openly. They don't care. They say screw the environment. We don't have people to actually treat the weeds manually, and we have to use these seeds, and we have to use these herbicides, even though it causes an environmental challenge. So that is a tricky play, because, and that's not the first time the farmer let's call it an association or farmer community has defied a government order, right? A lot of the government orders, or let's say requests, were about not burning parali. But farmers say we've got to burn parali, because what do? Parali exists and it's very difficult to discard it, and you cannot discard it. And uh, you know there's a lot of, I mean, there's it's easier said than done that parali businesses, parali is bad for air and all, but uh, that said, what do farmers do? Speaking of something that is being done about farmers, one of my friends, Arpit Dhupar, has a very nice company called Dharaksh, where he actually uses parali to create a replacement for thermocol. So they've some tissue culture thing. They've essentially, not tissue culture, not at all tissue culture, but fermentation. Some biotech guy could probably help me out with the exact terminology of it. But what they essentially do is they take parali and they ferment it. I think, yeah, it should be fermentation, and they make it into a hard mass, right? Like thermocol. So they make parali, mesh it up, create the when they crush it, it becomes a very thin hay kind of a thing, and then they basically uh, use water to bind it, some binding agents other than water, in addition to water. When it's bound, they dry it, and then it becomes a hard mass, which is used as a replacement for thermocol. So how many of you knew that, right? Dharaksh, trying to do well, good company. uh, Center's borrowing costs ease, robust economy yields results. So Center is essentially having a good time borrowing money because yields have dropped. So if you look at the central government's borrowing cost has moderated in the recent years. The weighted average yield for government securities from FY22 stood at 6.72%, way below that of 8% in FY10 and FY14. So when government tried to borrow money, earlier it had to pay an interest of 8% in FY10 and FY14, but now it's been able to get the same loan at 6.72%. Now, what causes this decrease in interest rates for the government when it's borrowing? The answer is very simple: economic stability. People are comfortable lending to you if they know you'd be able to pay back, and they are willing to reduce the uh, you know interest rates, if they know that the risk of the debt is low. So all of those factors have led to borrowing cost decline, which is great news, because cost of capital, if it comes down, it leads to great outcomes, right, for the government. The spread narrowed primarily due to reducing inflationary differentials, greater investor confidence in an Indian economy, and inclusion of GSEC in various bond indices. So no surprise there, and we've discussed this a lot. It's great. Labor force survey for 2026 may include migration trends. Well, this is no surprise, and viewers of Thinkers Frequency especially, would know how the government is trying to talk about measuring better. How do you measure better? What can you do to measure things better? That's the primary agenda of the government, right? If you remember, we talked about them trying to measure the consumption of electricity better. Earlier, how electricity consumption was measured was with the average unit cost. But then the government said no, average unit cost doesn't cover the slab rate differential which happens. So they introduced a slab rate. Then we talked about how poverty consumption is measured, the $3, $2.50. So below the poverty line was earlier $2.18, now it's $3. And how they measured consumption in that domain. We discussed this a lot. Viewers of Thinkers Frequency are, good for us. We've been discussing these deep, heavy things pretty solidly, right? And so again, a very good thing that the labor force survey is trying to do is that they're trying to include migration as a factor in the labor survey. So that's awesome. Railways are tweaking rules for Gati Shakti cargo terminal bidding. So the government is trying to do something called Gati Shakti for faster logistics movement. It's a very ambitious project, and railways are essentially tweaking rules for the terminal bidding. So a lot of this cargo movement is happening. So government is trying to make specific cargoes for industries so that their cost of sending stuff, freight costs essentially come down. And that's a very serious discussion which we should have in a lot of depth. The whole Gati Shakti play, right? That's very interesting. Speaking of something which is interesting but controversial, or but it has a lot of debate going on, is Gadkari. Mr. Gadkari has launched $300,000 rupee annual pass for national highways. So in that, you have 3,000 rupees. In 3,000 rupees, you'll essentially get 200 tolls. You can cross 200 tolls in 3,000 rupees in a year. Whatever comes first, a year or those 200 tolls, you can cross for 3,000 rupees. Now, 3,000 rupees, 200 tolls, that's 150 rupee a toll. But how does that make sense, right? Mr. Gadkari says that commuters would have usually paid around 10,000 rupees for such trips. But the caveat is that it's only for national highways. The state highways are not covered. So when Mr. Gadkari says that we would have earlier paid 10,000 rupees, is he counting the state highways or not? Because state highways also take a lot of money, right? So if it's just for national highways, and then the person would in addition to this 3,000, 15. No, not 15. Not 15. What are you talking about, Mr. Patil? It's 15, right? Well, I didn't get it. Come again. I didn't understand. Could you please come again? Yeah, so I was saying that this doesn't cover the state, tolls. Per toll, price per toll. 3,000 rupee for 200. Oh, 15 rupee. Okay, yeah, sorry. Yeah, you were right. You're right. Sorry about that. 3,000 divided by 200 is 15 rupees per toll. Yeah. So Mr. Gadkari says that it's gonna cost much less, 10,000 rupees, and it's not, available for the commercial suppliers. My question is, how much of it will actually help, considering state highways would be different? So when we drive to anywhere, we see a lot of national highways, but then also state highways have their own tolls. Would that add to the value? That's yet to be seen. But this is definitely better than the satellite-based toll charge concept that Mr. Gadkari was thinking about, right? He was thinking that instead of tolls and everything, we could just track cars by satellite, and then basis movement, we could tax them. That was wrong. That was very, very wrong. So I'm glad that that's not the case in this pass. Now the question is, why are they looking at this pass? Why is National Highway launching this pass of 3,000 rupees? Can you come up with any ideas? Why do you think that these people are coming up with these passes? Let's think about it. Let's think at Thinker's Frequency. Yeah, it's a fundraising play. It's a fundraising play. So what happens is, when tolls are getting collected, it's a different market, right? It's basically not as easy, and there's a latency to which tolls are collected, and a lot of tolls which get collected are coming with the PPP model, right? Where the toll operators are going to manage that money. However, if National Highways could actually have this kind of a scheme, it could actually give them a lot of float, and basis that float, fundraising could be easier. So it's essentially a discounted, yes, upfront funds, correct. It's basically a fundraising play. Basis this amount, you can expect them to be able to raise a lot of money. Speaking of a lot of money, XAI is burning $1 billion per month. $1 billion per month. X, the Twitter AI, Grok, essentially. That's huge. And the AI battle is only heating up. So we never know how more expensive it gets. Speaking of AI and deals, how much more expensive it gets. Speaking of AI and its deals, did you know that OpenAI and Microsoft had a deal? And in that deal, what was written was that as OpenAI achieves super intelligence, uh, the the joint venture will be off. That was written in the deal, apparently. Now Microsoft is looking at renegotiating their deal with OpenAI, but this was actually a part of the deal. It's like pretty unbelievable to me, right? But a lot of business and finance world is unbelievable at most circumstances. Speaking of this brings us to the end of uh, the 25th episode of Thinker's Frequency, the daily mental workout, insights and analysis which don't lead to paralysis. I hope you had fun. I certainly had fun. Thank you so much for joining, Mr. Rajakumar, Mr. Pulkit, Mr. Patil, Rajat Bhai, and everybody else. See you tomorrow, same time, same place. I'll be there. Bye bye.